What up, homies? It's JP. Spent 20 years here at Bear Mountain and Snow Summit. This is the story.
It was mid-'80s. I was on the slopes and working the area, and some of the employees came to me and said, there's a guy, he's up there with a board on the hill. You better come take a look at this. And it happened to be Tom Sims on some of his prototype snowboards. He gave me a board and we both went out and off we went.
It was December, just before Christmas of 1988. Assistant Marketing Director Chris Riddle and Marketing Director Greg Ralph basically talked me into allow midweek for a couple of days. It worked out okay, there wasn't any big deal, and we said, fine, just take the harness off and let them run.
You know, when I first got into snowboarding in 1990, there was magazine shots of, you know, Damian Sanders and Craig Kelly and all these guys up here at Snow Summit riding this little half pipe. And it was pretty raw, you know, it was just like hand dug jumps. And
we started everything by hand, basically. You know, the groomers would come up, bank some snow up on the walls, and we'd go to town with flathead shovels and just start shaping.
We found an old limb off of a tree that was kind of arched, and we stuck it in the snow and used that as our first jib ever.
Yeah, they had a cop car that they built out of plywood for the first little jib park that they built at Summit. That ended up being a poster. That was like my first shot I ever really got as a, you know, pro snowboarder, was on that little cop car.
That the sheriffs caught wind of it in our little town of Big Bear Lake, and they came up in force to go up and see what we were doing on this supposed cop car that we had built. There wasn't much maintenance on it because we had a sign there that said no skiers allowed. People had said, oh boy, it's just a flash in the pan, it's going to be a fad, but you knew once you got on that board that it was a sport to be reckoned with, that it was going to be something.
Bear Mountain, like Outlaw Park that started, and like Mike Perillo was building the park, and there was just a couple berms and a couple little jumps at the bottom, and that was about it.
But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I remember about Bear is when they got Outlaw going. And Summit still had their park, but it was mainly Outlaw. Just everyone started going and riding there. It was just out of control. Jeff Brushy moved up, got a house up here, and we rode a lot together. Brian Aguchi, Perillo, just a snake run, man, and just gapping over the snake run and doing the road gaps and.
You know, there's a couple things in the park we'd film on, and I remember I had that question mark twin board, and that was right when Brian Noguchi started riding that board, and that was a pretty cool time to be up here. There wasn't too many people around.
I think my first contest was at Bear Mountain Outlaw Park. Hand dug half pipe by Mike Perillo. Him and his girlfriend actually took me to that contest, and I never even knew how to ride a half pipe.
And then a few years later, he kind of switched to Snow Summit. People that were working at Summit created the park at Westridge, and that's when, you know, Mack Dawg started filming there. And
I think Outlaw definitely influenced the next level, which was Snow Summit, Westridge. And the whole forum crew would be there at least monthly.
A bunch of Canadians started living here. I mean, it was a big scene for a while. Devin Walsh would come up and ride all the time.
Mack Dawg emerged as a dominant video dude, and everything that was cutting edge or relevant or you know, next level within the sport, you'd see coming out of the Dogger films, and that started with the stuff at Snow Summit, where the shots of Peter Line, Jamie McLeod, Devin, all these guys on techs, and the light pole hit and stuff like that.
Everyone from the park crew all the way up to the people that own the mountain, everyone gets the picture. And so when you go there, they roll out the red carpet, they build stuff that works. They know how to treat a film crew and just create a really good vibe that you don't really get at any other mountain.
Like I remember there was those two like hips that they had. I did like a backside rodeo on it, and it was like the first time I'd ever done one in the park. I was like pretty hyped on that. I remember filming there with like Blaze Rosenthal. It was cool. Like I had a couple tricks that I wanted to do like that, and there was nowhere else to do them, you know. I wanted to do like a nose press on like a round bar, and somehow I already knew how to do it, but I just had never got one on film, and all of a sudden there was like a place to do it, and it was sick. And then I remember they had like a flat down rail, and it gapped over the top of it, like frontside 270, and I don't know, it was like, it's so small now, but it was just like back then there was like no such thing as it, so it was like so cool, you know.
My best memories of Bear Mountain and Snow Summit would have to be around the time Decade and Simple Pleasures came out.
That one movie changed everything. I was like, oh, go in the park, cruise around. I was like, that's what I want to do. Watching those guys in that movie pretty much solidified pro snowboarding for me.
It was one of the only resorts at that point that had that much weird looking jibs and stuff, and a lot of resorts didn't even have anything, and kind of one of the only places that were really concentrated on snowboarding.
Because that was around the time where I first started snowboarding, and me and my friends, we would just sit around and watch those videos and then like drive straight to the mountain. And we'd be able to snowboard on like the same thing as our favorite snowboarders. You could watch like JP Walker and Jeremy Jones and Peter Line and see him riding at Summit and just go ride the exact same thing you just saw. And I always felt so lucky to live so close to like the best snowboard park ever.
I remember filming for technical difficulties up there one year, and they had this super long, it was like a 40-foot long straight rail, I think. Maybe it was 50 feet. I think it was 40-foot long, and it was like the longest straight rail of all time back then. I remember doing like a switch nose press on it and got like a super sick follow cam shot. I was like really hyped on that shot. It was like one of the best shots for my part that year. I remember me and Jeremy talking with Gunny about wanting to do like some sort of jib box, and like nowadays, like everyone knows what like a box is in the park, but back then it was like never had been even heard of. It was like such a feat that they pulled off, and it's just crazy because that's just so stock now, you know. But from there, I think we started getting into those Nixon Jibfest, which were like pretty monumental for sure, because it was just like a contest based solely on jibbing, you know. And where else can you do something like that besides like Bear Mountain or Snow Summit?
The Nixon Jibfest was an idea of J.P. Walker and Jeremy Jones and Dave Downing. And they just wanted to have some different stuff to ride on.
For one of the Nixon Jibfests, like we wanted to like have a curved handrail for the contest, and that seemed like such a big deal. Like, how are we gonna curve this piece of metal, and then how are we gonna even snowboard on something like that? But of course, like we just like mentioned the idea, and then we show up there and they've got like a curved rail, one going left, one going right. Then the year after, like, let's put them together, have an S rail. It just was like always like non-stop.
Good progression that happened during those Jibfest events, and it was just like 10 of us here riding for like 3 or 4 days. It was awesome.
Every year it kind of became a tradition, like what else could they make and ride on, and could they build it?
I remember for one of the Jibfests, we're like, well, how can we top all this stuff that we've already done? You know, we've got like these curve rails and kink rails and all sorts of boxes and stuff, and like, how about we put like a handrail with stairs in? And it just seemed like, it didn't even seem doable, like when we talked about it. Once again, just suggest the idea, and next thing you know, there's like a 20-stair handrail, like perfect, like up on the side of the mountain.
The Jibfest was at Snow Summit that year. And I just remember watching those videos being like, dang, all that stuff looks awesome, and it'd be just amazing to go there someday. And then now, what, like maybe 10 or 15 years later, I'm riding Bear with JP Walker. It's pretty crazy. It's amazing, awesome.
Well, I hadn't even ever met Simone, and I had this Sponsor Me tape that Sean Johnson from Stepchild sent to me, and it was kind of like, hey man, this kid, like, he loves you and Jeremy, and he's really good at jib, and I'd be stoked to get him in this Jibfest thing, because apparently it's like one of his like lifetime goals in snowboarding to come to a Jibfest. So we're putting this one on, it's like the 4th one, and he shows up at the Jibfest, and he was just like so smooth and technical too, and it was really cool to see that. And he just like rode hard, and he won.
So I remember the day I heard the unthinkable was happening. I'd worked at Bear Mountain for a year. I was part of a team that had been brought in to like bring Bear Mountain back, really compete with Snow Summit, really go at them. We had a great first year. And the next thing you know, Snow Summit's buying us. It was basically like the enemy was buying us. I mean, it was crazy because Bear Mountain and Snow Summit, I mean, we're just absolutely like fierce competitors. I mean, on every level you can imagine.
Just when you thought Snow Summit was fading out a little bit, then they move everything over to Bear Mountain. And then all of a sudden, boom, like it's back. Like everybody was snowboarding there. The whole scene started up again. It was like Big Bear resurrected.
Oh my God. Here we go.
So within the next 2 or 3 years, we really flip-flopped that business from about 70-30 in the favor of skiing to 70-30 in the favor of snowboarding. And snowboarding really took over our mountain. We just really threw out the rule book and said, we're going to build anything anywhere we want, and really coined the first all-mountain terrain park in the country.
It was about the same time that I went in high school that Snow Summit moved their park over to Bear Mountain. I think I went to high school for 1 day, and then after that I begged my parents to put me on homeschool.
I guess just like the natural progression of things, it seemed like, well, what do you do now? You know, it's like they've built everything, done everything. So when we were filming for Shakedown, Mack Dawg kind of came up with the idea. He's like, what if we just went jibbing in a junkyard? And it's like, yeah, that'd be sick. He's like, all right, well, let's bring the junkyard to Bear Mountain. Like, these guys are down to do it.
And so that's what we did, and you know, all the guys at Bear, they were totally stoked. The whole park staff went out on scouting missions and just grabbed all kinds of random stuff.
When they started the idea for shooting junk, like what could we get out of boneyards and dumps and junkyards and the stuff that we could get that, you know, you might drive by on the freeway or drive by in your town and look and think about hitting it with your snowboard. You're like, let's get this stuff, these water tanks, these barrels, these cars, these boats. Let's get all this stuff and bring it to the snow and set it up in unique ways and then let, you know, these amazing snowboarders film on it.
That was some of the funnest stuff I've ever filmed because, you know, riding on refrigerators and cars and propane tanks and people could get real creative and it was really photogenic, you know, so it really popped off in the movies and that was some of the funnest stuff at Bear for sure.
The junkyard shoots were awesome. It opened the doors for a lot, even for parks. I mean, people realized, I think, after seeing that, like, what they could actually introduce to the public too.
Yeah, there's even some of that stuff now is like still to this day, like it's in the park, like as a permanent feature now.
So after my senior year in high school, me and two of my buddies were just like, okay, we're gonna just pick up and move out to Big Bear. And while on my drive out, my mom calls me and she's like, oh, I just saw on the Big Bear website that they're looking for somebody to do web videos and photos. So instantly, like once I got there, I went and brought my my reel to to Brad Farmer. Just bugged him until, you know, I could get a job there. And then from that point, I just started doing like once a week videos. Okay, so after the first winter of working at Bear, we had all the footage from the start to finish of the season, and Justin Meyer and Brad Farmer and I came up with this idea to make this promo video of the whole season. In the end, I think it ended up turning out awesome because it opened up the door to every year making this promo video and these, you know, pro riders and local kids actually coming to the mountain each day just to film for the promo video.
I remember riding around every day with Justin and Joe Carlino and like Johnny, and just lap after lap after lap, just filming all day.
I could snowboard with all my friends, and we were just, you know, there were so many different crews of like Chris Bradshaw and his posse and Johnny Miller and his posse, and like just like linking up with all these guys. And like some days we'd have a crew of like 20 people just cruising around, and just, you know, when you ride it at Bear around that time, there was like no time to just carve around. It was like one feature to another, and it was like the most fun memory to me ever. And then for Sunday in the park, like Justin would be filming us, and it would just be me and Chris, like just cruising around, like just doing our own thing. Like some of the kids, for some reason, built it up in their heads that me and Chris had some kind of beef, because like I dressed like, I guess like not very baggy pants, like tight pants, and like Chris always had like the huge pants, and it's like the kids always wanted to think like we had some kind of beef.
Yeah, Nemo's my dude. Get it straight right here, right now. Sunday in the park, back, I don't know, a few years back, people were tripping on all that tight pant, fat pant, whatever. Me and Nemo had to put a video out together, a little weekly edit, and show them it don't matter what you wear, we're gonna be homies. That's my dude. Nemo used to wear double X. FSC, FSC, yep, you'll see Nemo rocking dub X. I had a Misfit shirt once too, you know. Hi, I'm Nima Jalabi.
Hey, and I'm Chris Bradshaw. Hey, this is Sunday. Yo, my name is Chris Bradshaw.
To go to Bear Mountain and ride, to experience the camaraderie of all the riders and everybody having a good time, to hang out on the sun deck and have a beer, to hike the scene. I mean, it's an amazing experience, and if you don't go and do it, you're never really gonna understand how it is.
Yeah, we're not always building the biggest and the gnarliest feature out there, but our park is definitely for everybody, and I think that's why a lot of people love coming here, is because they feel a part of it. They feel they can show up and there's something here for them.
Bear Mountain's for the children. Take mine there all the time. They hook her up. Give her all the free food, free ice cream, candy. We love it. Yeah, word Bear Mountain.
Yeah, really, I think snowboarding has a lot to owe Bear Mountain and Snow Summit, because Summit and Bear was the first place to have a snowboard park, and now every ski resort has a snowboard park. So this is where it all started. So thanks a lot, Bear Mountain, Snow Summit. Good job.
The fact of the matter is, I go coast to coast and I go to a lot of things, and Bear Mountain's still 10 years ahead of the game in reality, and that's what makes it so awesome.
It's been an amazing 20 years so far, just how it progressed so much, and can't wait for the next 20 years. Probably have a hard time walking, but I'm gonna try to shred till I'm 60.
Every kid loves to play and loves their sandbox and loves to build, and that's what we're doing out there. We're building stuff all day long. It might be a job, but we're also having a good time at what we're doing.
See you in the scene, like in the down ramp.
Can't wait for next winter, man. It's gonna be sick.
Craziest thing to me is like this tiny little resort in Southern California, up in the hills, like provides so much progression and such an outlet for people to learn stuff.
The scene there is as strong as it's ever been, and it's the most fun it's ever been. And going into the future, I don't see it slowing down. It's just getting better every year. Every year it seems like they're building something new.
I really can't wait to see what will happen in the next 10 or 15 years. Like, I really hope that this mountain just keeps evolving as much as it has.
We're not going to stop. We're not going to slow down. Each year we just want to make it better, not just for you, but for us as well.
Because of there being a Bear Mountain, there are better parks in every ski area in the country. Any park anywhere in the world is better for there having been a Bear Mountain and what they've done to lay the groundwork and progress the park building. I mean, it's a fact. It's a foregone conclusion. I mean, if you don't realize that and you don't believe that, then just do yourself a favor and head to Bear Mountain and check it out.
Take me now, open road. Take me as far away from here as I can go. And I don't care my destination anywhere but here is fine. And I don't care if I'm ever going home. Sick of the dirt and the grime and all the sounds of 9 to 5. There's no more color, just black and white. And it's amazing these people think they're alive. Stuck in synthetic little worlds. All these faces, one big as far away from here as I can go. And I don't care my destination anywhere but here is fine. And I don't care if I'm ever going home. I gotta find where I belong when as I watch the paint lines pass, it feels great to breathe at last. And all the colors they're coming back. I'm glad that town is in the past. With all the dirt in the ground and all the sounds of 9 to 5, that place sure was a waste of time. It's funny, but I kind of miss that time. I gotta get out of here, leave this place behind. I gotta go right now, been here too long for me. Now, open road, take me as far away from here as I can go. And I don't care my destination anywhere but here is fine. And I wonder if I'm ever going home. Whoa!
Oh, did you ever stare into the sun until your eyeballs started to bleed? Or did you ever try to write a book? Or even though you never learned to read? Or did you ever stay awake? Or just so you didn't have to sleep? You was looking so good in red. Or even though I'm a colorblind, you're like a great big sparkling jewel. Even when there ain't no dew to find, and you took my hand in yours. Or even though I ain't got no limbs, or you were diving head first into a brook. Or even though you never learned to swim. Hey,
Hello, you're probably peeing on me because you get happy.
No talking, no walking.
And this guy just goes and does karaoke every day. I haven't seen him in a while there at Murray's, and God knows I've been back.
To me, Bear Mountain's like a giant sandbox, and I have the biggest shovel.
See you in the scene. Yeah.
If Dan's making a feature, don't hit it.
Yes, you were saying you'd like me to start out with.
Oh my God. All right, you ready for this?
What's that called? Big Mountain Bagel? Props to Big Mountain Bagel. I don't think that's even a place. Like.